UFC 319, Dricus du Plessis taking on Khamzat Chimaev. This is Mekhi'S Money Making Plays. You already know how I do. I'm going to come at you with the lock of the week, my most confident picks, favorite underdogs, and then we're going to wrap the video up with the favorite section that everybody loves, Mekhi'S Money Making Plays, the parlays. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and let's get the video underway. So before we get into UFC 319, I am going to recap last week's lock that we unfortunately missed. It was another parlay, but man, were we close. You know, we ended up going with Gene Matsumoto and Steve Erceg inside the distance. Steve Erceg was probably another 10 seconds away from finishing Ode Osborne in the very last round. So I am not mad at that bet. Mad at that bet at all. Man, I can't speak. But coming for UFC 319, if you guys follow me on other social platforms, you know I've been teasing a very special collab for this week's pay-per-view card that I'm super excited about. These fights are amazing. I'm super interested to see how they all play out. But you know I had to come with some fire for this pay-per-view. You know, the last two cards, last week's card was like I told you. The card before that, you know, the Tatsuda Taira card, it was solid. But this card here, man, is special, and I had to do something special for the lock of the week. So for UFC 319, I am here to announce to you a very special collab for the lock of the week. Let's get it underway. Kai Asakura by knockout plus 165. Lock it in. Me and Gavin over at unit.mma. Make sure you guys check them out on Instagram and TikTok. We both really agreed on this line, and you know, we definitely wanted to snipe some value for UFC 319. We both like how explosive Kai is. He's super explosive on the feet, and I believe he's going to avoid a lot of the wrestling scrambles that Tim Elliott is more than likely going to force. But one thing that really sticks out to me with Tim Elliott is the way that he strikes. He leans his head forward, and you know, when he shoots his takedowns, he's coming head first. And one thing that's going to set up is the knees down the middle from Kai Asakura, which we did see in that Pantoja fight. The dude strikes from any angle given. He's super quick. He's super electric. He's the bigger man in this matchup. Tim Elliott, yes, he's never been knocked out in his UFC career, but what is he, 37, 38 at the flyweight division? I believe his chin will be, more exposed than it's ever been before, especially against a creative striker like Kai Asakura. I think knockout is the only line that you really need to play. Tim, he stands pretty awkward, like I said, with his arms wide open. Straight shots down the middle are going to be right there for Kai Asakura. Me and Gavin really like this line. We really love it. Lock of the week. I feel as though, there was another play that I had in mind, but, we went back and forth about the fight. I'm not going to give you guys who that was, but, he reached out to me a few weeks ago asking to do a collab, and, I was more than, happy to do it. And this is what we got for you guys. Kai Asakura knockout. I strongly believe that Kai Asakura gets a knockout within 2 rounds. Second round probably early on, but Kai Asakura, man, he's too explosive, he's too quick, he's too big for Tim Elliott. I think he definitely has the power, the speed, and he's going to be able to avoid a lot of the takedowns from Tim Elliott. So let's go for the very first fight night picks. Unit MMA lock of the week collab, Kai Asakura by knockout plus 165. Now let's move on to my most confident picks. I got 2 of them. I'm going with Carlos Prates, and I got Chase Hooper. Carlos Prates, I really think, is going to knock out Jeff Neal. The way that Jeff Neal fights, he likes to box. He likes to be in that pocket. He does have some solid footwork, but it's really rhythmic. He stays moving side to side, 1s and 2s, almost like he's dancing. But I think Carlos Prates, those knees that he throws up the middle is definitely going to be a dangerous weapon against Jeff Neal, who we saw, get hit by some pretty big knees by Shavkat, who set up the finish. Shavkat ended up choking him out, but the knees that he was throwing throughout that fight set up that finish. If Carlos Prates attacks the body early, which I really think he will, attack the legs, limit that movement. And Carlos Prates is a sniper, and he's definitely coming for revenge after almost getting that knockout in the last round against Ian Gary, which we also picked Prates by knockout in that fight as well. Oh, so close, man. Erceg, Prates, oh, so close. But I really think Prates gets it done here. Minus 240. I think this is probably other than the Ian Gary fight, this is probably the cheapest we're ever gonna see Carlos Prates. Maybe not. I might be getting too far ahead of myself, but I really think he's gonna look really good against Jeff Neal in this fight. Me and Gavin had a little disagreement on this one, but I really think Prates is going to find the knockout, especially with those knees. The way that Prates is able to close distance with just a knee, I think Jeff Neal is in for a tough fight, man. So I really like Carlos Prates to get it done by finish as well. I think the knockout prop is like plus 115. Really solid value there too. And then moving on to Chase Hooper. I really like how Chase Hooper is starting to fill out into his frame. I think he should be able to. I don't think Alexander Hernandez is going to try and take him down. And if he does, he knows how dangerous Chase Hooper is off of his back if he's on top. That is definitely not a situation that Alexander Hernandez wants to find himself in. So Chase is going to be able to dictate where this fight takes place. I don't believe in Alexander Hernandez's striking to, make it a kickboxing match for the entire 3 rounds. And I don't think Chase Hooper is going to be like a standing duck in there either. I don't think Chase Hooper's, super fast on the feet, but neither is Alexander Hernandez. Does have some solid body kicks, but I think Chase Hooper could probably, end up tree-topping him with the kicks that he throws. I'm not confident in Alexander Hernandez fighting off of his back. And like I said, Chase Hooper is going to be able to dictate where this fight goes. So I definitely think Chase Hooper minus 320, a little nasty line, but I think he can. If Alexander Hernandez chooses to wrestle, I think a Chase Hooper finish can be on display. He didn't get it last time out against Jim Miller, who's a very crafty vet, but Alexander Hernandez is, still in between, does have a couple UFC fights underneath him. I think Chase Hooper could get it done by sub. So that's what I'm going with for the most confident picks. I got 2. And the favorite underdogs, I had to start it off with the big dog, Dricus messed up his name. Dricus du Plessis, plus 195. I got Dione Barbosa, plus 180, and Nursultan Ruziboyev at plus 145. And I'm seeing that line come down. So I think, people are starting to catch on to this fight also being at middleweight. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's start with Dricus. I picked Dricus, man. I got a little bit of flack for it online too, but I really think Dricus is going to be able to weather the storm early that Khamzat Chimaev is going to throw at him. I don't see, Dricus giving up in the grappling similar to how Robert Whittaker did. Kevin Holland didn't necessarily give up, but the choke was too tight for him to fight out of, and he was really fighting for it. He wasn't fighting for a check, but that fight was all messed up. He wasn't supposed to fight Khamzat. Khamzat was supposed to fight Nate Diaz. The fight got all messed up because he couldn't make weight, whatever. But I'm looking at how successful Kamaru Usman was, looking at how successful a former lightweight Gilbert Burns was against Khamzat. Yes, those fights might have been a while ago, but Dricus du Plessis is not a part-time middleweight. He's not a former welterweight. He's not a former lightweight. Kamaru Usman was Kamaru Usman is a welterweight. Robert Whittaker was a former welterweight. Robert Whittaker is also a small middleweight, so he relies a lot on his speed, and he was unable to, avoid the takedown. You saw he got finished, with about 5 minutes, almost at the 5-minute mark of the very first round. I don't think Dricus du Plessis is getting finished in the first round. I think du Plessis is going to be able to weather that storm. I'm really banking on his championship, grit and heart in this fight. Dricus du Plessis is not only a UFC champion; he has won championships in multiple different organizations. I really think, if he's able to, I think he will. I don't know, but I think he will be able to weather the very early storm that Khamzat is. And like I said in the breakdown, Khamzat is really built for explosions. So we're going to see a lot of explosions from Khamzat, but we're not going to see him be able to consistently carry that out for 3-4 rounds once we get there. He wasn't able to do it against Kamaru Usman. We saw Usman starting to get the better of him in round 3. So I think if, once we get to round 3, Dricus du Plessis is, screaming. Plus 195. I got to go with the champion here and to also be the first man to give Khamzat Chimaev his first career loss. Dione Barbosa, plus 180. I really think this is a razor close fight. I know it's short notice for Barbosa. Carini was supposed to fight JJ Aldrich, but I really think, Dione Barbosa, she's always in the gym. She's always training. She's always going to be ready. I don't see her getting steamrolled by Karine Silva, who probably is on a redemption tour because she lost last time out to Viviani. But I really think Dione can make this fight super interesting. Her grappling is super, is high tier. The striking is also coming along. I probably rate Karine slightly better striker, but I really think Dione's, striking is coming along as well. I don't see her getting, pieced up for 3 rounds. I don't see Karine being able to grapple her for 3 rounds. Like I said, I think Dione can definitely have a lot of scrambles in this fight. We might see her on top. We might see her, throw some submissions from bottom. I really think Dione Barbosa is a live dog, so I really like her. Nursultan Ruzaboyev versus Brian Battle, who is coming up to middleweight because he cannot correctly fight at 170. Last time out, he fought Randy Brown. He was 175. Very unfair advantage, and he did not look very good in that fight. He held Randy Brown up against the cage for a majority of the match and got a, split decision win just off of control time. I'm not too confident in a Brian Battle moving up to 185 because he can't get the weight cut right. I think he might get outstruck here. I know he's a pretty solid kickboxer. Does have a pretty good output, but Nursultan, man, he could be a sniper from long range. When they're in tight, he's got super long arms. I believe the reach advantage for him is might be 2 to 3 inches, somewhere around that. But I really do think Nursultan probably gets the power edge in the pocket. Grappling, I don't think Brian Battle wants to take Nursultan down. If he does, I think he knows how much trouble and danger Nursultan is off of his back as well. We saw it with Dustin Soltfoods. Yes, he got hit with, I believe it was a headbutt where he found himself on the mat. Dustin tried to secure a choke. He was able to fight out of it and was threatening his own submissions. So Nursultan Ruzaboyev, he's dangerous, everywhere in this fight. And I don't see Brian Battle being able to come up to 185 and fight in such a large 185er. Nursultan is 6'5". He's a huge 185er, man. And, he looks much better up at middleweight compared to when he did fighting at welterweight, fighting Joaquin Buckley, getting tired. So I like Nursultan Ruzaboyev plus 145. He was a really strong consideration for lock of the week. But me and my boy Gavin over at Unit MMA really sniped a solid line with Kai Asakura. So really like that one. Now, moving on to my favorite section, your favorite section, Mekhi'S Money Making Plays of Parlays. We got some big money opportunities here. We got MVP by decision, Chase Hooper and Edson Barbosa plus 355. Really like that play. I do think Edson wins. Do think it's also a dangerous fight though. Then we're going over 2.5, DDP versus Hamzat, because I do believe DDP brings him into deep water. Over 1.5, Hooper versus Alex. I do believe that fight probably goes into round 3 if Hooper doesn't get the submission earlier. And then we're going Aaron Pico by decision. I do think that fight is super close too. I think it's going to be like a split decision, but I think Pico's going to be able to do more. He's going to, land the bigger shots and get the judges, on his side. Plus 589, solid money there. Over 2.5, Dione versus Silva. Like I said, I do see that fight going to a decision. Definitely think there's going to be some 29-28s in there too. Hooper by sub, and then Prates by KO. Plus 717. Then we're going Kai, Prates, Hooper, Nursultan, over 2.5 in the Edson versus Close, plus 772. That over is a little shaky, but I do think, Edson up at 55 should be able to weather more, and Drakkar Close, he can be a little chinny, but I think his chin is going to hold up here. Then we're going Nursultan, Pico, and Kai by knockout. Underdog, Pico, and then the Kai knockout, which is also the lock of the week. I really like this play. Plus 916. Then we're also going DDP. Yes, I'm putting bread on DDP. I'm standing by it. And then GM3 sub plus 1412. GM3 by sub has been screaming at me, all week long. I really want to play it, and I'm going to play it. Then we got DDP, Prates knockout, and Kai knockout. Come on, man. Plus 1586. Really solid value right there. I really love these plays, and I'm thinking we're getting some really good money back on Saturday night. So Let me know in the comments what you guys think. The lock of the week, the collab. Let me know if you guys want me to do another one. I think me and Gavin got some pretty good rhythm, man, and I think we're gonna, snipe this line. I'm looking forward to seeing Kai with his hands up get his first UFC win and it being a stoppage. I think Kai gets it done. Let me know what you think of the underdogs, the favorite picks, the parlays, whatever you got to comment. If you don't got nothing to say, drop a W in the chat. And like always, I will see you for the weigh-in recap, and I'm super pumped for UFC 319. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you later.